There is a moment somewhere in every life when a person catches their reflection in a window they weren't expecting to see themselves in: a shop window, a dark car door, the black screen of a phone before it lights up, and for half a second they see something they didn't plan to see. Not the face they perform for others, not the face they arrange in the bathroom mirror each morning, just the raw, unguarded truth of who they have become. And in that half second, something strange happens. Some people flinch, some people look tired before they even check the clock. But every so often you meet a person whose unplanned reflection looks lighter than their years, softer than their struggles, more alive than their calendar would suggest. And the question that follows is almost always the same. What do they know that I don't? You have probably asked that question yourself, even if only quietly. You have looked at someone 20 years into a demanding life, someone who has buried people they loved, weathered failures, carried responsibilities that would bend most backs, and noticed that their eyes still hold light. Their laugh still arrives easily. Their face has not hardened into permanent worry. And you have wondered whether it is luck, or genetics, or some cream they are not telling you about. But I want to tell you something today that very few people will say plainly. The years show up on your face in the exact shape of how you have lived inside your own mind. Not how many candles were on your last cake, not how many mornings you've woken up to the same sun, but how much peace or how much war has been happening quietly behind your eyes. This is not a speech about miracle products or secret diets. This is a speech about the parts of a person that are usually invisible, and yet somehow, impossibly, become visible anyway, written slowly into the corners of the mouth, into the tension of the jaw, into the openness or the closeness of the gaze. It is a speech about the inner architecture that shapes the outer one, because the truth, once you really sit with it, is almost unbearably hopeful. You are not simply aging. You are becoming a record of every choice you have made about how to hold your own life. And that record can be rewritten, starting today, not by fighting time, but by finally understanding what time has actually been measuring all along. So let us walk through this together, slowly, honestly, the way you would walk through an old house you grew up in, noticing things you never noticed before. Let us talk about the 7 hidden reasons some people seem to carry their years so lightly. And let us talk about them not as tricks, but as truths. Because once you see them, you will not be able to unsee them. And once you understand them, you will realize that youthfulness was never really about the surface at all. The first hidden reason lives in a place most people never think to look, in what they have refused to carry. Picture, for a moment, 2 people who experienced the exact same betrayal 10 years ago. The same words were said to both of them. The same door was slammed, the same trust was broken. And yet a decade later, one of them still tightens their jaw at the mention of that person's name, still rehearses the argument in the shower, still feel chest constrict when a similar situation appears. The other person, when asked about it, exhales, shrugs gently, and says something like, "That was a hard season, but I've made peace with it." Same event. 2 entirely different nervous systems. 10 years later, one face has been quietly clenched for a decade. The other has been allowed to rest. This is not about pretending pain didn't happen. It is not about swallowing hurt and calling it strength. Real peace is not the absence of memory. It is the absence of the daily rehearsal of resentment. Every time you replay an old wound in your mind, your body responds as if it is happening again, right now, in this moment. Your jaw tire again, your shoulders rise again, your breath shortens again, and your face, which is simply the most exposed and expressive muscle group on your entire body, absorbs the impact of that replay, over and over, year after year, until it becomes etched not as a memory but as a structure. Meanwhile, the person who has learned to close the file out, not by suppressing it, but by actually processing it, feeling it fully once, and then setting it down, spares their whole nervous system from years of unnecessary rehearsal. This is one of the most quietly powerful truths about staying young. It is not about never being hurt. It is about learning to finish being hurt, instead of carrying an open wound disguised as a closed subject. If you take nothing else from this, take this. The grudges you carry are not sitting patiently outside of you, waiting. They are inside your body, working every single day, whether you are conscious of them or not. Forgiveness, real forgiveness, is not a gift you give to the person who hurt you. It is a gift you give to your own future face, your own future body, your own future peace. The people who seem to defy time are very often the people who have simply stopped paying the daily toll of unfinished anger. The second hidden reason is quieter still, and it hides inside something as simple as curiosity. Watch a child examine a bug on a sidewalk. Watch how their whole body leans in, how their eyebrows lift, how their mouth opens slightly in wonder. Now think about the last time you looked at something ordinary with that same hunger to understand it. For many adults, that moment has not happened in years. Somewhere between childhood and now, curiosity got quietly replaced by certainty. We stopped asking why and started assuming we already knew. And here is the hidden cost of that shift. A mind that has stopped wondering begins, very slowly, to close, and a closed mind has a way of closing the face along with it. People who seem to age gracefully are, almost without exception, people who never fully let go of their appetite to learn. They pick up new hobbies in their 50s. They ask questions in conversation instead of only offering opinions. They read outside their comfort zone. They try the unfamiliar comfort P, the unfamiliar route home, the unfamiliar instrument. This isn't about staying young at heart in some greeting card sense. It is neurological and physical. An engaged, curious mind keeps releasing the chemistry of aliveness. Engagement, interest, small hits of discovery, and that internal aliveness has nowhere to hide. It shows up as brightness in the eyes. It shows up as animation in the face when they speak. Compare that to the shutdown that happens in a mind that has decided it already knows everything worth knowing, that has stopped being surprised by the world. That mind goes quiet, and a quiet mind produces a quiet face. Not peaceful quiet, but flat quiet, the kind that looks tired even when it isn't. Curiosity is not a personality trait reserved for children and geniuses. It is a decision, renewable every single day, and it is one of the most powerful preservatives a human being has ever had access to, and it costs nothing at all. The third hidden reason is the one people resist hearing the most, because it asks something of them that feels almost countercultural. Stop performing a life you don't actually want, and start living one that fits. So much exhaustion, so much invisible aging, comes not from hard work itself, but from the friction of living out of alignment with who you actually are. Think about the physical toll of pretending to enjoy a career that empties you, pretending to be fine in a relationship that drains you, pretending to want the life that looks good from the outside while something inside you quietly starves. That friction does not stay contained in your thoughts. It leaks into your shoulders. It leaks into your sleep. It leaks into the tightness around your eyes that no amount of rest seems to fix, because the exhaustion was never physical to begin with. It was existential. There is a particular kind of tiredness that comes from wearing a mask for so long you forget you're wearing one. And there is a particular kind of lightness, visible, almost luminous, in a person who has finally stopped auditioning for a life that was never truly theirs. You have likely seen this in real time. Someone leaves a job that was quietly crushing them, or ends a relationship that required constant self-erasure, or finally says out loud the truth they'd been swallowing for years. And within months, sometimes weeks, people around them say almost involuntarily, "You look different, lighter, younger somehow." Nothing about their bone structure changed. What changed is that they stopped spending enormous invisible energy defending a false version of themselves. And that energy, reclaimed, went straight back into their eyes, their posture, their skin, their presence. Living authentically is not a soft, self-indulgent idea. It is one of the most efficient anti-aging forces available to a human being, because it eliminates the single greatest drain most people don't even realize they are funding: the daily cost of pretending. The fourth hidden reason concerns the relationship you have with your own body. Not the way it looks, but the way you speak to it and about it, hour by hour. Every human being carries on an internal conversation, almost constantly, and most of that conversation is directed at themselves. Some people speak to themselves the way they would never dream of speaking to a friend: critical, impatient, contemptuous, always finding the flaw before finding anything worth appreciating. Others have learned, often slowly and with real effort, to speak to themselves with the same steadiness they would offer someone they love. This difference does not stay abstract. Chronic self-criticism keeps the body in a subtle, sustained state of stress. Cortisol quietly elevated, digestion quietly disrupted, sleep quietly shallow, inflammation quietly simmering beneath the surface. None of this announces itself dramatically. It accumulates, almost silently, the way sediment settles at the bottom of still water, until one day it shows up as fatigue that doesn't match your actual workload, or a face that looks strained even in a moment of rest. The people who seem to carry their years lightly have, more often than you'd expect, simply made peace with their own bodies. Not obsessive love, not vanity, peace. They eat because they respect their body, not because they are punishing it. They move because it feels good to be alive in a body, not because they are at war with a number on a scale. They speak to themselves in the mirror with something closer to gratitude than judgment. This inner truce does something remarkable. It lowers the baseline hum of stress that so much of modern life keeps running in the background, and a lowered baseline of stress is, quite literally, one of the most well-documented ways the human body preserves itself. Kindness toward your own body is not softness, it is strategy. It is one of the 7 quiet reasons some people seem untouched by the years that would have worn out someone less at peace with themselves. The 5th hidden reason lives inside something almost everyone underestimates: play. Not vacations, not achievements. Play. The kind of unstructured, purposeless, joy-for-its-own-sake activity that most adults quietly phase out of their lives somewhere around the time they start taking themselves very seriously. Think about how rarely you do something purely because it delights you, with no goal attached, no productivity gained, no image to maintain. Somewhere along the way, many people trade play for performance. They trade spontaneous laughter for scheduled relaxation. They trade the version of themselves that used to dance badly in the kitchen for a version that is efficient, composed, and quietly joyless. People who seem untouched by time have almost always kept a thread of play alive, even in the middle of enormous responsibility. They still laugh in a way that takes over their whole body. They still find themselves doing something a little silly, a little unnecessary, purely because it feels good. This matters more than it sounds like it should, because play is one of the few states where the nervous system fully exits vigilance. It is the opposite of bracing, and a body that regularly gets to fully exit bracing, even for a few minutes a day, ages differently than a body that is perpetually composed, perpetually on, perpetually managing its own image. The face that has permission to be silly sometimes is, paradoxically, the face that holds its youth the longest, because it has never fully forgotten how to let go. The 6th hidden reason is emotional honesty. The willingness to actually feel what you feel, in real time, instead of performing composure while something else churns underneath. So many people have been trained, sometimes since early childhood, to suppress inconvenient emotions, to swallow anger because it wasn't welcome, to hide sadness because it made others uncomfortable, to mute joy because it seemed unprofessional or excessive. And suppression, unlike expression, does not disappear the feeling, it just relocates it. It moves the emotion from the open air of your face and your voice into the closed rooms of your muscles and your organs, where it sits, unresolved, taking up residence. People who age with a kind of visible ease have very often built an unusual skill. They let their emotions move through them instead of storing them. They cry when something is sad, instead of holding their breath until the moment passes. They speak their anger cleanly, instead of swallowing it and letting it curdle into bitterness. They let their joy show fully on their face, instead of dampening it to seem more serious or more composed. This constant, honest movement of emotion keeps the nervous system flexible rather than rigid, and rigidity, physical and emotional, is one of the clearest markers the human body associates with aging. Emotional honesty is not a weakness to be managed. It is a form of maintenance as real and as necessary as anything you might do for your body on the outside. The 7th hidden reason, and perhaps the deepest one, is connection, genuine, unguarded closeness with other people. Human beings were never designed to do life in isolation, and the body seems to know this in ways the mind sometimes forgets. Loneliness, real chronic loneliness, has measurable physical costs. It elevates stress hormones, disrupts sleep, and has been linked to markers of accelerated aging almost as significant as smoking. But connection, real connection, the kind where you are known, where you do not have to perform, where someone else's presence makes your shoulders drop an inch without you even noticing, has the opposite effect. It regulates the nervous system. It lowers the internal alarm that so much of modern life keeps quietly ringing. People who seem lit from within, decades into a full life, are almost always people who have protected their relationships fiercely. Not many relationships necessarily, but real ones. They call the friend instead of just thinking about calling. They say I love you instead of assuming it's understood. They let themselves be seen fully by a small circle of people who know their actual face, not just their public one. This kind of connection does something no cosmetic routine can replicate. It tells the nervous system on a level deeper than thought that it is safe. And a nervous system that feels safe does not need to brace, does not need to armor, does not need to hold tension in the jaw and the shoulders and the eyes the way an unsafe one does. Love, real love in all its forms, friendship, family, partnership, community, is one of the most powerful preservatives a human life has ever known. And it has nothing to do with what's written on a label. So here is what I want you to walk away with today. You were never simply aging in years. You have been aging in unresolved resentment, or you have been softening in forgiveness. You have been aging in a mind that stopped wondering, or you have been staying alive in curiosity. You have been aging in the exhaustion of pretending, or you have been lightened by the relief of finally being honest. You have been aging in self-criticism, or you have been steadied by self-respect. You have been aging in the seriousness you mistook for maturity, or you have been renewed by the play you never fully gave up. You have been aging in swallowed emotion, or you have been kept supple by emotional honesty. And you have been aging in isolation, or you have been held young by real unguarded connection. None of these 7 things require money. None of them require rare genetics or luck or circumstances you cannot control. They require something both simpler and harder: attention. The willingness to look honestly at your own inner life and ask quietly without judgment, where am I carrying tension I could set down? Where has my curiosity gone quiet? Where am I performing instead of living? Where am I unkind to myself? Where have I stopped playing? Where am I swallowing something I should be feeling out loud? Where have I let connection slip? You do not have to answer all of these today. You do not have to transform overnight. Real change, the kind that actually shows up on a face 10 years from now, is built the same way anything durable is built, slowly, through small repeated choices, through one honest conversation instead of an avoided one, through one moment of self-kindness instead of self-attack, through one afternoon of genuine unguarded laughter. The years ahead of you are not a sentence being handed down. They are still being written, and you are still holding the pen. The person you will become and the face that will carry the story of how you lived is not fixed. It is being shaped right now, in this ordinary moment, by the quiet decisions you make about how to hold your own mind, your own heart, and your own life. Choose gently. Choose honestly. Choose as if you already know, because now you do, that the years were never really the thing doing the aging at all.